Hello guys, welcome again to the LCP University. This time we will have a governance and legislation session. Yay! For this session, you will have me, Jonathan, or Johnny, your NCVP Finance and Legal of ISEC in Spain, as known as your favorite written CVP. Although, again, you deny or you say it's not true. I know it's true. I know you love me, or I really expect it to. Whatever. These are the objectives of this space. First, to know the subcommittee chairs plus the steering team. Second, to understand your role in the legislations plus the basics of the spaces. Third, your duty when complex decisions come by. And fourth, how the membership criteria and the internal regulations affect the governance and legal departments. So, governance role. It refers to the general duties that the LCPs have just because they're LCPs. And so, you will get this as the issues that make your role different to any other and so relevant as the outcomes are to take decisions. You are expected to take it very seriously and with a lot of responsibility. Remember that now everybody in the planet will be looking at you as leadership role models. Okay? It's like you don't have the chance anymore to say, "Oh, I'm a member, I can fuck up." No. Dude, you're the CEO. You're the final responsible of your LC. So, be it. Now, the governance role includes issues like first, representation in the assemblies. Second, assuming different extra roles like steering team and subcommittee chair. Third, be the invoice and take important decisions that affect directly or indirectly the entity. And fourth, be the maximum representative of their LCs. Yay, check. Now, the steering team. This is a group of people who represent different realities. Usually, but not always, are chosen due to their proactivity in the organization, and their job is to be consulted for relevant topics that will have a great impact. They should also be the voice of a bigger group, usually a network, and may guarantee the knowledge of the general opinion. In ISEC in Spain, this team is usually composed by 3 LCPs, one from a big entity, one from a middle entity, and one from a small entity. Usually, but not always, I'm saying. The one of the term 1718 was represented by Alessandra from Pompeu Fabra, Jairo from Madrid, and Ainhoa from ISEC in Malaga. Now, the committee chairs. These are a group of representatives, usually LCPs, and are the responsibles for doing special work for determined areas. Among them are, first, the legal committee chair. Is the one responsible for the legislations, is the secretary inside these ones, sends and updates the motions and the record of the legislatives to the board. And right now, the LSC is Aina Montagut from URL. So for you to know, this LSC is like is the first one entering to the assemblies, always paying attention at the motions we're legislating, editing the word with the motions, and then sending a booklet PDF with the updates we have after every legislation, etc. Then we have membership subcommittee chair. This is the one responsible for the membership criteria, the criteria we have to give vote to the LCs. Revises the deliverables of all the local committees every quarter with the help of the MCB Finance and Legal to finally emit a verdict of the membership status of all the LCs of ISEC in Spain. Is also in charge to lead the changes of the criteria when considered necessary. Right now, Nuria de Marti from ISEC URL is the MSC. And this is also the person who should be pushing to update the membership criteria whenever is needed. For example, as you might know, we already have an update of the membership criteria from one that was coming from years ago to a now updated version that makes more sense for the entity. Finally, we have the finance subcommittee chair. This person is the one responsible for the financial issues that affect both the member committee and the local committees, like the financial model and the distribution model. Also, national conferences, because usually these are required to have bigger revenues, also have big expenses, etc. Together with the MCP Finance and Legal, constantly revises these to come up with models that make sense for everyone. Right now, Sergio Perez from Pompeu Fabra is the FSC. For these subcommittee chairs, just for you to know, usually there are applications that are opened in the end of term or the year 2018 or whatever year we are. So at this point in December, you might see it soon, if you haven't seen it yet, and you will be able to apply to these roles. For more information, now these roles usually have 1 year duration and are meant to have applicants from the BOP. It's like in the previous case, we have two BPs, finance and legal, having these roles because we saw them as the more ideal for the deliverables they had to accomplish. But for this term, we're really expecting of the LCPs to take the leadership of carrying up these roles. These people work very close to an MC member. In the case of the LSC, it's usually to the MCP, and the FSC and the MSC usually with the MCP finance and legal. Now, legislation. Technically, this is the space where the BOP get together to have meetings where they discuss topics that will affect different legal documents of the organization. These documents have a direct and indirect impact among the organization, national and local level. They're recognized, a recognized space, and so pretend to have accomplished some protocols and from people to take them very seriously and formally. For example, the previous BOP proposed to have always white shirts, like legal, very formal clothes for these spaces, because it's like you cannot do jokes in these spaces, you cannot do crazy stuff or interrupt others. They're legal spaces, they are recorded, so well, not like with video, but yes, in the paper. So it's like, yeah, just please take it very, very seriously as the adults you are supposed to be. These legislations happen in a mandatory way every quarter, usually in the conferences, and apart from that, in extraordinary meetings, usually virtual, but also it can be physically. For example, if you have a CEO summit in, I don't know, May, you can have a legislation there. But these legislations must be always convoked with 2 weeks of anticipation. Like, that's the ideal case. Now, legislation, your role as LCP. What do you have to do with this? Well, in the most general way, it's to care. You will have the next responsibilities. Read the emails that contain the motions and assembly records, propose and participate in the different discussions, and have a critical thinking about what is being discussed. So, all the decisions taken in this legislation will affect the entire entity. So, as representatives of your LC, you're supposed to take the voice and say how the things are being discussed affect in a good way or in a bad way your LC. And also know that we won't ever find a good option for everyone. The decisions most probably will always affect in not a very positive way someone. It can be the small LCs or the big ones or the MC or some LCs in special, whatever. It's very difficult to find something that suits everyone, but for sure we have to strive for the common good. So it's like, yes, you have to think in a subjective way to put the perspective of your LC, but also strive to have the best for the national plenary. Now, the flow of the legislation. Usually it goes in this way. First, there is a previous space that is not exactly legislation because it's not, which is called Lego Fair. Here we discuss the motions we are going to legislate. It's very useful as we might find that necessary amendments to the motions. They need to retire them or maybe add new. So this Lego Fair is like in the pre-agenda where we discuss in a general way all the things. And there we might find out that, for example, a motion proposed does not make sense because we have to modify this or whatever. So you do this here in this not very formal space. And then in the legislation, you will have a lot of time saved because you might have already discussed a bunch of things. So you won't have to be like strictly sat down with this white shirt for 4 hours. But you will have already discussed most of things. So you will only need to vote. And also it's meant to be in this way. Now, after we have this Lego Fair and we have recorded the main changes or things we need to do for the motions, we start the legislation. Also taking account that this Lego Fair does not exactly need to happen right before the legislation, but it can be, I don't know, the day before, the week before, 2 days before, or whatever. It's like it's meant to exist, but not exactly right before the legislation. Then, when we start the legislation, there is a presence call for all the LCPs of every committee. So be very mindful, because if you are not present at that moment of calling your name, your LC will automatically lose the representation criteria and will not be able to get full membership at the quarter revision. So please be very punctual, put it as many calendar or alarms you have to, but it's very important for you to be there for this name calling and also in the whole legislation. Because, for example, if you are for the name calling, of course we called you and you say, hey, I'm here, but then in the legislation someone needs you and calls your name and you're not, you will also be recorded as not present. So be very mindful. And then all the introduction is first done by the MCP or a proxy if needed, and after the presence call, he would ask to assign a moderator, which is usually the MCP Finance and Legal, #hey, and after that the secretary, which is usually the LSC. And I put usually because it's like the 99% of the times, unless something happens. For example, we have legislation tonight, and then Mikael calls me, hey dude, I have a problem, I am lost in the middle of the desert, we have without computer or proper connection to go to the legislation, please replace me. So I have to replace MCP as proxy, and then I will have to find someone to replace me as moderator. But whatever, like, you get the point. After this, the moderator starts reading the motions, and the LCs with right to vote or without right to vote can second a motion. For procedure motions, usually we ask it to pass them for acclamation, and if they're normal motions, they are voted normally by entities with right to vote. I will explain this like detailedly in another slide. So, like, if you don't get it right now, it's okay. After this, the assembly records of past assemblies get approved. Then the order to read motions go like this. First, I put it in Spanish because it's like the ones we use in the legislations, because they are done in Spanish. It's a legal space meant to deliver something for Spain as country, so it has to be done in Spanish, although all this is in English, but well, you get the point. Moción número XY, which is like, for example, número 1, de tipo tal. Proponente, for example, ASEC Pompeo Fabra. Texto de la moción. La moción propone que se nombre a Pedro Sánchez como MCP de ASEC en España. Se busca secundante. Then, for example, ASEC in Bellaterra secunda la moción, which is seconds the motion. Then, who proposed? Do you have something to say? If he or she doesn't have something to say, then she or he says wave. So we pass. If you have something to say, then you talk. Then who seconds? Do you have something to say? Yes or no? If no, wave. Then voices in favor. Here you talk and say like people who is in favor of the motion and why you are, but in a very short way. And then voices against, like why you are against the motion. Then you open the debate to discuss, and then you close the debate, like, because you cannot keep talking for 5 hours about something, because you are supposed to have already talked about this in the Lego Fair. And finally, if this is a if we're having procedure motions, we usually ask if is there any problem for this motion to pass by acclamation. Then if no one says anything, we just do a little clap and we pass to the next motion. If this is a normal motion which we have to vote for, then we do the voting. And if you are in a physical way, then people have to raise their hand if you have the right to vote. And if you are virtually, you just have to write in the chat, like if you are in favor or against, whatever. And depending on the results, we will like show if the motion passes or not passes, or etc. Okay. Then legislation, the motions. There are different type of motions. The most common and current ones, are the normal and procedure ones. The other ones you might not ever see them, or only just a little bit sometimes in your LCP term. So normal, for a change in the statuses or the compendium and any other motion that does not fit in the other types, it's required to have at least 50% plus 1 to pass the motion, except for particular cases like the modifications of the membership criteria, which requires 2/3 of the people with right to vote. Then 1 year motion, which is a motion that will have a validity of 1 year from the moment it's approved. 2 year motion, which has 2 years of validity. Then the mandate. These are obligations imposed to an unit, management organ or specialized group and or collaborators from the MC to do a concrete task. After the approval of the motion, the mandated entity will have to accuse they received the mandate. And accuse is like to say, yes, I received it. So this mandate is not like you are going just to put them just because. No, it's like they have a reason why. For example, if we need to do a membership criteria revision to change it, we put a mandate for the MCB Finance and Legal and the MSC to do it or to look for a task force or whatever, but they are in charge. So it's like you put in charge people to do something with a concrete deadline. Then the procedure motions refer to the functioning of the assembly. So this one, you usually ask, is there a problem? No, yeah, the clap, and that's it. Just to continue with the assembly. Sanction. All the motions that collect sanction for an entity or a group of people. So let's say that tomorrow the LCP of Ibiza hits other LCPs, or I don't know, okay, maybe this is a little bit not possible, but let's say that arrives 3 hours later to the MCP elections and he has right to vote. Well, the sanction is not to have right to vote, or I don't know, it's like you just put a sanction for someone for doing something. Then automatic motions. There are two types. All the motions that will be executed automatically after a particular deadline or condition. These terms are agreed, and so the motion does not need a proponent or secondant to approve it after the condition is accomplished or not. For example, we have a very fucked up LC, which is ISEC in La Rioja. And you put a condition for them to do at least 10 approvals for the next quarter, also to have at least 10 members, full EV, and at least 2,000 euros in their bank account. And the deadline is the 1st of April of 2019. If by the 1st of April they don't have these conditions we just proposed, they will be automatically closed and you won't need to do legislation to pass this motion because it's already put it. So what we will vote is for this motion to be applied automatically if the conditions are not accomplished. And also there is another kind of automatic motions written in the compendium that appear every once in a while, and these ones are due voted. For example, the motion to close LCs after 2 periods in probation. So for example, if you are ISEC in Huelva and you have been 2 periods in probation, like two like once and another, like one next to the other one, then you have an automatic motion of closure. So you will have to stand up and say, well, like, yeah, it's this motion. You can talk and say why you do not deserve or your LC does not deserve it, and people just vote. Now, the flow of the legislations. Usually it goes in this way. When all the motions have been legislated, the moderator and the secretary get discharged of the roles. So if they're discharged, the only person who can talk, like to moderate, is the president of the assembly, in this case, the MCP. So these people comes back to moderate and close the assembly. And finally, further signatures of representatives are asked to put on the assembly record and give this proper validity, because think that maybe, I don't know, someone comes and steals the template and puts some way like legislative, but this person will need the signatures of the people who apparently came to this assembly to approve this. So like having these signatures guarantee in some way that this document is truth. Now, the assemblies. To know more about, read the National Compendium. This is the Annex C. Here's the link. You cannot click it right now because this is like a record, but you have access to the BT, so you can click it later. I will like just show you so you know how it looks like. It says Reglamento de Régimen Interno, blah 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 blah. It has like, I don't know how many pages, to be honest. Let me see if I can see, because my internet is quite bad at this moment. Well, it has like, I don't know, 20-30 pages, and it has all the things. Like, it's very important for you to read it. You should know it, very very general things. Read it 3 times if you need it, so you know how to behave as proper LCP and know all the basics about governance for ISEC in Spain. But how to do elections of VPs, there is also this annex something. Let me see if I can access to it so I can show it to you. And it basically tells you it's the Annex R, how to elect LCPs, like the flow you should have, the things you have to do, and also for your LCPs. It's very simple. You can check it out. Then, if you want to know more about how an assembly record looks like, you can look at this, which is a past assembly record. So, we put the title, then we call the LCs, we say if they have right to vote or not, and then we have like this, the place, date where it starts, the time, motion number 1, to inaugurate the assembly, blah, blah, blah. All of this is procedure because it's like protocol. And then, for example, here, normal motion. So here you have a change in a document. So it's a normal motion. And in the end, it's voted. So, for example, it's only one vote here because I think only one LC had the right to vote. So it passed. The motion passed. And that's how it goes, all the document. It's not loading right now. But well, like in the end, we have the signatures. Here they are, the signatures. Here we close this, we discharged the secretary, etc. So yeah, that's how an assembly record looks like. Now, making complex decisions. In Argentina and Spain, it's common for just a few LCs to have full membership, and they are supposed to vote thinking in both their own entities, but also the whole entity, because not everyone has right to vote, representing the ones that have no right to vote, as I already said, or no voice, like the expansions. Sometimes you can get pushed to vote for some things, goes well for all the LCs except your entity, like conference dates, or to close LCs, to fire people, to vote for things that are not comfortable, but will push you to strive for excellence and be accountable, to elect the MCP, etc. And you will not be able to run out of it. And you only will be the one raising the hand to vote and then telling your LC members how things went in these assemblies. So, for example, in this current quarter, only Pompeo and Bellaterra have the right to vote. So they are expected, yes, to think in their own entities, but also to ask opinions to other LCPs and other LCPs to ask them and tell them their opinion about certain motions, so they can choose the best for the entity. That's what we expect. However, take in mind that if these 2 LCs are the only ones with right to vote, it's because they work incredibly hard to have this right to vote. So yes, they should think in the general common good, but in the end, if they work a lot, it's for the good of their entities, like their own entities. So you should not judge them if they're taking a decision that affects very well their LC, but not the rest of the LCs. And if you want to change this and have more participation of the LCs, well, strive for excellence and try for your LC to accomplish this membership criteria. The right to vote, as I said, it's common for only for some to have this full membership, and it's because having it proves you're striving for excellence, as getting this is not easy thing to deliver. It's not difficult, to be honest, you just need to be responsible and organized. I've showed before how the detailed stuff about the membership criteria, so I won't repeat it. I will just show you, for you to remind it how it looks like. Let me open this. So yeah, we have the representation criteria, information criteria, financial criteria, legal criteria, and exchange criteria. The exchange goes according to the Audi model. You have seen this, you approve this. So there are a lot of things we have to deliver, but yeah, there is nothing which is outstanding difficult. You just have to do the minimums and be organized. We have placed the exact date so you won't lose, miss the chance to have this membership criteria. And guys, for real, it's it might seem difficult because there are a lot of things you have to deliver in 1 year, but trust me, it's possible. I remember when I get to be LCP, all the previous LCP, because I knew the 4 year of LCPs previous to my term, they told me, dude, we have not had this in 4 years, and God knows how long time ago, because we didn't know the people before the last LCP 4 years ago. They told me don't focus on it, it's very difficult. Yeah, don't do it because you're not capable. And I told them fuck you. Okay, I didn't tell them fuck you, but I thought for myself dude, if there are other LCs who have this membership criteria accomplished, so they have right to vote, it's because they have worked a lot And they accomplished it. Like, it's not impossible. And they were actually bigger LCs, delivering 300 exchanges, and my LC was expected to do only like something more than 100. So why should it be that difficult for me when there are others with difficult situations to deliver it? So I told myself, let's do it. And thanks to my EB and all the members of my LC, we strive for it, and we got to have membership criteria accomplished in 3 out of 4 quarters after 4 years at least, because we don't know more than it, of not having it. So it's like the fact of having it just depends on you, and for you to empower your EB and your LC to accomplish this, because it's not impossible. Now we have the space for questions and answers, but I'm just recording this, so there's no one here. However, if you have any question or doubt, recommendation, feedback, whatever, you can just talk to me. I'm Jonathan, MCP Partners and Legal. This is my email, and this is my phone number. You can call me, whatever, and I will try to answer to you as soon as I can. So yeah, that's all for now. I hope this was very useful to you, and see you later. Bye.